Yeah.
Hi, Kevin. It's nice to see you, buddy.
Hang on, I want
Likewise.
to ask Austin a question. We can introduce Kevin
This
afterwards.
is my ideal outcome, okay?
Yeah.
This is why I don't agree with you or Alex.
Okay.
The ideal outcome is a man fucks 10 women and he uses that to, in the best way he can, to generate his confidence, to expand his consciousness, to become the peak version of himself that he was born with his birthright to become. And then he gets a base trad wife, has 5 kids on a homestead, and then, eats grass-fed, grass-finished.
Why does he need to fuck 10 women to do that?
And raw liver, dude.
Austin, why does he need to fuck 10 women to do that?
Because that is the optimal way to attract the hottest woman that you can, which is women, their primary SMV, their sexual market value, comes down to their looks primarily, their body count, and also their mothering qualities, right? If I go for the first girl that I see that I think is somewhat attractive, I'm not going to marry. I don't want to marry Bertha and have a baby in a shack, right? I want to develop myself as a man, my earnings potential.
Because you need to build up the traits of confidence, assertiveness, ability to understand women. That comes from experience.
And get good at bed. The thing is, the environment now is more competitive for guys, more competitive than ever.
There's
not enough girls at church to go around for everyone.
How interested do you think if you?
Yes, there are.
Yeah,
yes, there are.
Well, and how interested?
You know what the ratio would be at that church
if
everyone that did pickup went to your church?
Well, wait,
it'd be like 5 guys for every 1 woman. Then you have polyandry.
Do you think that virgin
right now,
women
like
are interested in your skills in bed? How would they have a reference for it?
There's a very small percentage.
You know what I mean?
Of women
like
are
that doesn't
virgins.
even make sense.
Like
what are you
less
talking
than
about?
10% of chicks are virgins. So most guys are going to have to settle down with non-virgins.
Well, we're not saying that that's untrue, but I'm challenging his logic here, where he's like, this is optimal. If you were to foresee a future where you were a virgin and you got married to a virgin, what's her frame of reference for you being bad in bed? She wouldn't have one. I don't even know what that means.
You're right, Andrew. You're right.
That's true, but that's not the world that we live in.
Yeah, you're right in that specific idealistic example, but the reality is the vast majority of girls are not virgins, so she will have a reference.
Okay, but there are men who marry virgins.
Even at church.
We can agree that that's true, right?
But there are exceptions to the rule.
No, well, maybe there are exceptions to the rule here in this nation, but they're not exceptions to the rule globally, are they? There's lots of nations that put value on virginity, don't they? There's lots of men who do marry virgins and live happily ever after forevermore. And this idea that this is only optimal because it's the only way to build confidence, because you got to show her how good you are in bed. How the hell would a virgin have a frame of reference? And by your admission, you're like,
that's not the only way. That's not the only reason it builds you. It builds your confidence, your ability to express yourself, your ability to.
By society's metric today, there's a thing called counterculture, dude. Like, you understand the culture that we live in is counterculture to the traditions of the past. So that's why we keep saying we want to inch back toward it, to where you don't build confidence by having a high body count as a man or being good in bed as a man. Because if you're both virgins, you're not going to have this as a metric. Oh, he wasn't as good as my last guy. You shouldn't have a last guy.
Do you think we should give guys advice on the fictional world that doesn't really exist?
It's not fictional.
Or
it was like
we give guys advice on the world that is as is?
Well, I think you should do both.
Of girls are virgins.
Well, wait, that's both. You can do both. You can say both. You can say, hey,
Team Alex, no.
Hang on. You can do both. You can say, here is the world how it exists now, but here's the ideal world that we're striving to accomplish. And
which used to be the way it was.
And within these ideals, here's what we promote. We do want you to be strong. We do want you to have confidence. We do want you to be based in alpha and all that shit, right? We want all of this for you. But we still think that it would be key for you to be able to marry a woman who had her virginity intact, and for you to even keep your virginity intact before you married her. Right? This is going to create, again, a very good outcome for both parties involved. It's bizarre to me that you think it would not.
Andrew, that's like saying, well, if human beings weren't selfish, we could have communism.
No, it's not like
everyone
saying that,
would be responsible. It's
no,
an
Alex,
ideal
it's not
world
like
that doesn't exist. And every single year, the number of virgins decreases. So to give guys,
well, that would be necessarily, Alex, every single year, necessarily that would have to be true. It's not even an argument. Right? Every single year, the amount of virgins would have to decrease, Alex. Just by death. if we all lived as virgins, just be a death every year necessarily.
That's what's been happening. That's where society is going. This is like when guys say, well, I don't like I don't like Tinder. I don't like, all the social media. Okay, but the world you live in has social media. We can't live in this fictional world.
Are we advocating that you live in a fictional world, or are we advocating instead that you give advice based on the real world that we live in? We understand this is the real world that we live in, but we can still try to go for optimal results within that worldview. We can still say, while it's true that this is where we're at, and here's advice I can give you, maybe you're not virgins anymore, right? Maybe most of you aren't virgins anymore, but we can still strive for the best that we can possibly strive for. And we can use what we do have, the platforms we do have, the things that we can do in order to promote those things. It's not an either or proposition. It's not you must either everyone be a horny, degenerate scumbag who fucks everything with holes, or you have to be a pure virgin. We get that. We're just saying advocate for what you'd want to see.
Okay, I will concede. You have a fair point. You could make like two types of videos, one for the real world, one for a world that applies to a very small percentage of people. Okay, fine. I'll grant you that. Let me introduce Kevin. So Kevin has a philosophy channel.
It's great to see you, Kevin. By the way, he's been on the Crucible.
Nice guy. You guys know each other. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he's been on.
Wait, you guys only know each other because of me. I introduced you guys.
Exactly. And Alex, wow. I just want to say this is kind of weird because I'm not sure if Kevin supposed to be coming in on your side?
Yes,
I'm gonna try to. I'll explain my positions, but I'll fill Austin's role regardless of whether I actually believe in all that or not. I do have specific. So here's the thing: I do have specific criticisms of religion as a whole, even though I largely respect it. I mean, the paintings in the background. There's the Prodigal Son by Rembrandt and what is it? The Good Samaritan by Vincent van Gogh. So I have a lot of respect for Christianity. And you guys are Orthodox Christians. At least Andrew, you are. And
yes, that's correct.
Dostoevsky is one of my favorite authors. So I have a lot of respect for it, but I do have my criticisms of it. And I can tie it back to the whole PUA thing.
Yeah, let me just clarify. I have a problem with religion in of itself. I have no problem with religious people. So I hope you don't take it as a personal attack.
Well, what about religious people that are advocating for their religion? You have a problem with them now. Huh?
I have a problem with the concept of religion in itself. But anyway, let's not get.
I think I can also address one big confusion that was because I was just listening to this while I was on my walk, and it was a bit frustrating because I think you guys were talking past each other. I think the fundamental thing, the confusion is just, I don't think Alex really knows much about Christian theology or. No, it's fine. It's fine. Like it's. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I think that's why you guys were talking past each other, and especially like deontological versus consequentialist ethics. I think that's one of the main reasons you guys kind of were, like I said, talking past each other. But yeah, I want to correct one thing really quickly, Alex, that you said that religion isn't logical. The thing is, it's actually probably. I'm just. Bear with me what I'm about to say. It's probably the most logical thing that there is because of their deontological beliefs, right? So when it comes to no, Alex, I'm on your side. Don't worry, I'm on your side. I just want to.
It does not sound like it, bro. It does not.
I want to lay this out first, okay? Because for me, I don't necessarily think logic itself is like the end all be all, but Christianity being a logos-based religion, they think logic is like all truth is God. God is truth with a capital T, right? Yeah. So I think just that's why you guys were one of the reasons you guys were talking past each other. But I am on your side. Don't worry, dude. We're wearing the same shirt.
All right, you're gonna have to prove that claim.
Yeah, whenever you get to the being on his side part, I can't wait to hear.
No. I am. Because I do think although that's why it's hard to debate against Christians because they are extremely logically consistent because everything's rooted in deontology, right? Sense of duty. It's like, it's not consequentialist anyway. But I do think, in my opinion, when it comes to religion, that I think everything in a way is consequentialist. And I think that religious people are in a way as well, because
there's overlap.
We agree there's overlap. Yeah, we do.
There's a tiny.
Well, let me ask you this. So because everything, basically with Christianity, everything that goes back to at the end, like, oh, it all goes back to God, right?
Yeah.
Well, we need
now
to
I'm
understand, Kevin, before you go, I just want to make sure that you understand our position on Christian ethics, that Christian ethics is a mix of deontological virtue ethics and the biblical teachings of Jesus Christ. Necessarily, many of Jesus Christ's teachings have consequences involved in them in order to make greater parable truths about heaven or about the world around us and this kind of thing. So is there a bit of overlap? Of course there's overlap, because we're speaking to the absolute truths of the world from our purview. Consequences most definitely are going to be part of those truths.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just think that, you know, when it comes to religion, you bring everything back to sort of like a deontological, like sense of duty and everything. But I think that's sort of contingent on those worldviews lining up with certain outcomes that you find favorable, that religious people find favorable. So, for example, I think if the Bible or God came down and said, like, hey, you should actually, like, go, I don't know, kill people or whatever, commit mass genocide. I think once you're Christian, you would do that, because obviously you look at like the book of Job, for example, right?
We actually couldn't. We couldn't do it.
This is called what you're presenting here is called the Euthyphros dilemma, where it's like, is God good because it's in his nature, or is God good because he's adhering to something beyond his nature that is good? We're obviously going to say that his nature is good, and that his nature is unchanging. It's non-contradictory. So when he says, "Oh, don't murder," but then he comes down and tells you to murder, like, well, that's now a contradiction, and we're not talking about the same
therefore
God.
We would know how to test that and say that was Satan, because that's actually the ultimate test. Is God telling you to do something against his nature? That's how we can test if that spirit is actually God.
Okay, God should test you.
So we get the point. I get the point of what you're saying. We're just saying, like, that doesn't that line can't really apply to the Christian.
That's fair. That's fair.
I want to make like one statement real quick, and then it can return to you, Kevin.
Okay.
Please don't take any offense to this, Andrew or Zen. It's not meant to be a personal insult, but I think there's
what people always say when they're about to insult you, by the way.
Well, I'm not trying to, because I like both of you guys personally, so I don't want to insult you.
We like you too, man.
I don't think there's anything logical about basing your argument on premarital sex from a book that was written 2,000 years ago.
2,000 years old.
Hold on. We got it. That's I don't agree with that argument, Alex. Just for the record, but I'm doing you a favor. Kevin? I'm doing you a favor. Trust me, because they can.
Kevin, defend Alex now.
Well, okay. So really quickly, I want to, because this whole thing of like, okay, well, let's make monogamy like the sort of the norm for everybody. I think for me, it makes sense with Christianity, because everybody's like, oh, well, everybody's made in the image of and likeness of God, so therefore we should have basically the same prescriptions from a normative sense. But I do think, in my opinion, that there should be different prescriptions for different people, because there's so much variability between human beings. And I think something like being polygamous or being monogamous could potentially apply from that standpoint. So for example, if you're like somebody who's like who's like Elon Musk, for example, right? So Elon Musk has had plenty of children from plenty of women, but chances are, just from his genetics, like, he's doing the world a favor by having, many children, right? Even if it's with multiple women, right? So yeah, that's sort of the thing that I think it's what's best for society isn't always necessarily what's best for the individual.
I think you might have just made a eugenics argument without realizing it.
I know. Yeah. I realize that's what it sounds like.
Do we think that Bill Gates would have been better off having more children that he left nothing to had he not gotten divorced from Melinda, right? Like you can kind of hold these figures up, anyone that you want, that you have some type of grand respect for, and say, well, we want that gene pool to multiply. But the thing is that it's not multiplying, all right? We're not multiplying anymore. And this is a huge problem from the consequentialist purview. This should be the problem you guys are focused on, is the fact that we're dwindling at a rate that is skyrocketing. And it seems like, instead of using sex for its reproductive purposes, you instead want to lean into the using it for hedonistic purposes. And I mean, at the end of the day, from the evolutionary standpoint, by the way, everybody take a drink because I said at the end of the day, but from the evolutionary standpoint of probably Kevin Ray Wilder and Alex and Austin Summers, you can't deny that this is a reproductive act. That's what it is. And this is its primary goal. And the fact that we're not using it anymore for reproduction should be very fucking concerning.
Andrew, what's your take on the bonobos?
Oh, okay. If you fucking bring up okay, fine. Let's get into bonobos. We can get into
wait. Yeah, Alex.
All bonobos
really.
Every fucking brings up bonobos. I'm so sick of hearing about fucking bonobos.
Guys, I have to say, Alex does need to get his line of questioning in. And
well, I want him to respond to what Andrew just said about kind of co-opting sex from the reproductive act to now just a hobby.
Let me just make sure I understand Andrew's argument. So he's saying that the big issue we're having is because sex is not being used for its intended purpose, which is reproduction, and just being used for fun. Is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah, and in the midst of a rapidly declining birth rate.
Okay. So first of all, we do have to keep in mind that the declining birth rate is only in the U.S.
And no, it's not. It is worldwide. Worldwide. Every developing or every developed country has a negative.
Even Africa. Nation. Yes,
right. Even Africa. The world overall, the birth rate is increasing.
No, it's decreasing
drastically.
I can show you studies on this.
Then show.
Okay.
We'll wait.
Yeah,
show us the studies of the birth rate globally going up. We'll wait all day, Alex.
Okay.
Really quickly, while he's searching for it, can I bring something up again?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so my whole thing, I wasn't necessarily making a eugenics argument. I was basically trying to say that, prescriptive claims of what society ought to do don't always align with what the individual ought to do. And so a perfect example of that is Japan. I'm half Japanese, right? So I've seen this happen, and I'm not just half Japanese hoppa. Like, I actually used to be a citizen of Japan, used to live there, all that type of stuff.
Do you speak
the language, everything? Yes, I do. I'm fluent.
Wow. So you can go argue with Jared Taylor about race realism then?
I don't know who the hell Jared Taylor is, but
it's just a joke, man.
Yeah, don't waste your time. Do not waste your time. Just Google that name.
Yeah. But the thing is with there, it's like, okay, well, they have very strict societal.
Wait, what's that headline say, Alex? What's that headline say?
Population to hit 9.8 billion by 2050.
Despite what?
Despite nearly universal lower fertility rate.
Oof, bro.
But the world population is rising.
The population is increasing. But Alex, you gotta factor in that our life expectancies are increasing as well. So how much of that 9.8 billion are going to be above the age of 70? If it's 30% of our population, 40% of our population.
Alex, I've looked into this. It's declining.
What's that? Oh,
I said.
By the way, rapidly. Why don't you look at what the population in China is projected to be by 2050, Alex? Since you got that nice little Google machine up there.
Why China specifically?
Because it has 1 billion people in it,
and they're going to take over.
Why do we care about China? Why not just look at the world?
We are looking. We already have established that worldwide decline in birth rates is a phenomenon by the very first headline you pulled up, which says, yes, population's going to peak based on current population trend, and then it's going to massively decline due to birth rates.
Okay, but if there's more people on the planet, so your issue is just the fact that the people who are going to be alive are going to be older, right?
No, that's not our issue. Our fundamental issue is that you can have a peak population at 10 billion and within just a couple of generations have it be halved if the fertility rate drops below replacement levels. This is just the way that it works. So when we're talking about fertility, and there's all kinds of arguments that intertwine with this, Alex, which would include things like mass migration to the United States. We want to be able to replace our own population so that we're not completely dependent on immigrant labor, so that we don't have these kinds of influx of cultural issues. There's all kinds of reasons why we want to see the fertility rate in the United States drastically increase so that we can replace ourselves and not have ourselves replaced.
Okay, I'll concede on that point. I thought because the overall population went up, but okay, I'll concede on that point.
Can I bring back to the society versus individual thing?
Well, quickly. The question then becomes, Alex, I guess it's the original question: how do we reconcile, like, encouraging sex or supporting, basically the co-opting of sex as a hobby rather than a reproductive act in the midst of a rapidly declining birth rate?
Well, I think a significant part of the issue is that something like 25% of men are incels. So if those guys learn how to talk to women, that's 25% of more men who are going to be potentially reproducing. So I think that's a good start.
Well, I mean, I don't know, Alex, because essentially our very first debate, all we discussed was how much you don't want to have kids and how much you talk about men getting snipped and wearing condoms and doing all of these other things to not engage in the act of sex for the purpose of reproduction. And all of this was in order to evade the fundamental truth that you agree with, that you probably shouldn't reproduce if you're married. But if we need reproduction, we should probably have more married people. So this is a conflict in your worldview.
Andrew, you are making a total straw man argument.
I don't think so.
Let me respond. I never said that people should not reproduce. I said that me personally, right now, at this point in my life, I'm agnostic about having kids. Everyone in my family, all my cousins just had kids. I'm very, very happy for them. I think it is a personal decision that you should do when you're ready for it, not just at a random point in my life.
But that's one of the...
At this point in my life, let me finish, not ready to have kids. That does not mean I'm saying that other people should not have kids.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, I understand, but at the same time, when you're talking about all these various ways to use sex for personal gratification rather than reproduction, you add to this huge issue we have in fertility globally. We want to see the birth rate on the increase, especially here in our own nation, for all these various reasons I just explained to you. And if we want the best outcomes for the kids inside of that nation who are born, we want them to be born from married couples. That's what you have to reconcile. This is why we have all these fundamental issues from the top down. It's not just our religious arguments that we're bringing to bear. We're bringing everything within your worldview that we possibly can to try to convince you. This is a problem that does concern at least your lineage, even if you think it doesn't concern you right now.
Okay.
Andrew, I'm curious to get your guys' take on this.
Dude, so did you just bring up Rollo Tomasi, that freaking quack? Come on, bro.
So this is Rollo Tomasi.
Can I address Andrew's question, though?
Wait. Yeah.
Rollo Tomasi, the guy that's afraid to debate both me and Alex.
I called him out.
The godfather of the manosphere.
Got it. So, Austin,
this chart mapped to a bunch of... So this chart maps to a ton of other things, but I was curious what your guys' take is on this, because...
Yeah, typically women are more...
No, so basically women, they peak earlier in terms of their sexual market value because of their youth, their beauty, their low body count, obviously, whatever. That's it's earlier, and then men peak later because men their attractiveness is largely based on their status, social connections, earnings potential, blah 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 blah.
We concede all that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think men should get married like when they hit peak SMV, where they can attract the most attractive partner?
I think we would both agree that generally a man should wait until he is established in life before getting married, and that he should be seeking a partner who's, within reason, like younger than him, and then a woman should
based on her reproductive value, which, by the way, is what we would incorporate from your evolutionary chart in beauty and things like this, right? It would be what you would consider the person you wanted to reproduce with the most.
That's I would love to game with you guys.
They're both married.
Talk to girls.
Yeah.
I don't really do that, Austin.
Get a little hall pass once a year.
No hall pass.
Also, you're speaking to a panel of married men.
So, happily, by the way.
It's actually 50-50. 3 of you guys are married and 3 of us are not married.
Yo, put a 1 in the chat if you want to see.
You're not married,
guys. We're trying real hard to change that. We're trying real hard to change that right now. We're trying to get your worldview in line so that we can get you out of the dark side of the force here, right?
Okay. Well, let me respond, Andrew. Let me respond to the point.
Yeah, and then Alex, go down your line of questioning. I am interested to see where your line is going to go. We kept getting derailed.
I know. Okay, so first I'm going to answer your question, Andrew. I think it's a fair question. I don't think it's an all or nothing thing, meaning I think you should have kids when you're ready to have kids, when you're ready to be a father, when you're financially stable, when you're in a stable relationship, right? And that typically is for guys in their 30s. However, that does not mean that when you're 20s and you're younger, you can't enjoy sex for sex's sake. You can do both. You can enjoy sex and you can use it to have kids. That's my
I agree with Alex here.
So the issues that you have with this are all the issues that we've previously brought up. The issue one is, if you're in your 20s and you're having sex with women in your 20s, what age bracket would you assume that they're going to be in, Alex?
Probably in their 20s too.
Right. So then suddenly what are we adding to? We're adding to their body count, making them less appealing to those established men in their 30s that you're talking about who need to marry them, who are now stable, financially have no crises, and are the most appealing to those same young women. We're still at the same impasse where we're not showing the values that we wish to see in society at that base level for them. So once again, what our overarching point here would be is that you're still propagating the problem and standing in our way of the solution, essentially.
And even by your own lights, you would be diluting the ideal sexual market value. Like the women in their 20s, their sexual market value is at its peak, but it's being diluted by increasing their body count. It's not actually as high as it should be.
Andrew, you're still not understanding my philosophy. I don't think, as an individual, it is your responsibility or duty to do what is best for society.
I think I do understand your philosophy.
Okay.
I think that.
So for me, the fact that I'm fucking those chicks who are in their 20s is not against my values or ethics, because I don't think it's my responsibility to do what's best for society.
Yeah, but it is. Okay, but you do think it is, because otherwise you wouldn't say. Well, hang on. Then you would have to bite some really bad logical bullets here, Alex. You'd have to say, I don't care about school shooters, because if they go in and they shoot a bunch of people, it has nothing to do with me. Nobody's violated the non-aggression principle against me. There's no big problem there.
Violating the non-aggression principle.
Not against you, though, Alex.
Yes, against other people,
but not against you, right?
But you don't care.
So if there's a perpetuation on society and you consider that perpetuation to be immoral, then by your own logic, if you're adding to the perpetuation of something you consider bad in society, in this case, fucking young women and adding to their body count, you would have to necessarily say that that's immoral. This is my problem with your logic.
When you're shooting up a school, there's direct victims. You are killing human beings.
I say that there's direct victims when you're fucking young women in their 20s too, and adding to their body count and taking away from their future potential of finding a great husband.
I disagree with that. I don't think there's
based on you've already agreed with it, so I don't know how you could disagree with it now.
Okay, I don't think there's a direct victim. There's plenty of guys who don't give a shit if their girl has fucked a few guys. So I don't see it as a direct victim. There's a hypothetical potential victim. That is different than a direct victim when you shoot someone and they die.
Okay, so what about the indirect victims who are the parents and who are the cousins and who are the extended family? Do those indirect victims get no moral outreach from you or any moral heart pounding from you at all, even though they're not directly affected? Of course they do. Because of the societal moral implications that you find with that, you find it reprehensible. And this is where you have got to bridge this gap for yourself so that you understand that the things you are perpetuating here don't make sense within your own worldview.
It totally makes sense with my own worldview, because if you can point to the victims, which you can in that situation, the cousins, the aunts, the uncles, then yes, it violates my moral ethics. Let me finish. Yeah. If you cannot point to a direct victim, like a guy at some
But they're
point
not
in the
direct
future-
victims. The aunts and cousins and whatnot are not direct victims. They're indirect victims. Nobody shot them, Alex. Nobody stomped their heads into the ground. Nobody hurt them.
Even to be clear here, Alex, like to go back to what you said at the very, very beginning of this debate, when you brought up how the lockdowns from COVID are generally better for society, but you don't want to do that because you want to live your life. Let me ask you this: if you could trace that somebody got COVID from another person, let's say that they went out to a restaurant or just some casual venue that they didn't need to be at, and they got somebody sick there, and you could trace that they were the one who got this person sick, and then that person died. Should we hold the person accountable that got them sick? Because they didn't need to be there.
It was an accident, but yeah, I still think like that becomes something different. If your action directly killed someone,
it's a direct action. I was sick with a disease that harms people, and I went to some extracurricular activity that I didn't actually need to be at, and I interacted with people, and I got somebody sick. You could trace that to me. That person died. Am I held responsible? Do I go to jail? Am I immoral?
Well, I don't know if you should go to jail, but I think you're partially responsible. I think that old person who was there probably should have stayed home. But yeah, you did cause harm. That's like if you were driving, going the speed limit, you weren't breaking any laws, but it's just bad luck. You hit someone, they died. Yeah, you're partially responsible.
So then your ultimate ethic is harm. Again, this is what we've been telling you.
Whether it's direct or indirect.
Whether it's direct or it's indirect, and this is our point. So if you're indirectly harming young women by your own ethical standard, this should be incorrect. This is the only thing that we've been trying to kind of convey this entire debate. I know that Austin's like, we should go point by point on some of the things you're saying, and those are all fair. But this is, to a large degree, an ethical debate. We're talking about an ethical prescription for society, what we want to see as far as how we want men to act and young men to act, and how we want women to act and young women to act. You guys don't fucking want young women to act like they're acting right now. Come on. You know it, and I know it. We don't want them to have OnlyFans. We don't want them to have Twitters that are full of smut and garbage and trash. And you would not advise anybody in your audience to go for those women for a specific reason. Like, let's be honest with some of this, guys.
Okay. With the first point you made, the victim isn't the girl. That girl, if she wants to get a partner, she's going to have no problems doing that. The victim is a potential guy who cares about her body count. They're not the same thing.
Well, no, that's incorrect. How many times has everybody on this panel, guarantee it, everybody, not just me, referenced what happens to the 40-year-old, 50-year-old unmarried cat lady who just rode that cock carousel and never got married, and now she's 40 fucking years old and she cries herself to sleep in her pillows? Come on, Kevin Ray Wilder, lie to me and tell me you've never referenced that woman before. Go ahead, tell me.
The reason that woman,
yeah, that's right. That's what I fucking thought you'd say. You know what I'm saying?
The reason that woman is not able to find a partner is very unlikely to have to do with the fact that she fucked around with a few guys, and much more likely to do with the fact that she probably let herself go. She's probably not that pleasant to be around. She's probably not putting herself out there enough. So yeah, there's plenty.
But why did she let herself go? Why did she make these horrible decisions?
The evidence shows that women that do sleep around a lot, they basically decrease their ability to pair bond, and that has to do with the delta phos B, I think, gene in the brain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's some naturalism bullshit. But
Benedict Arnold.
But
even when I reference science, they don't even want to take my point because they're like,
really quickly, I can make sort of a distinction here.
Calm down.
Just from a logical reason.
I would like
Andrew, you guys have to stop talking. One second. I'm gonna hand it over to Kevin. But Austin, I was not laughing at you. That was just genuinely funny.
That was a joke, Austin. Yeah, it's a joke in our circles. But yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
I would like to, after Kevin, get into my line of questioning.
Okay. Yeah. So fundamentally, like the thing that I don't agree with having overarching prescriptions for all society and all individuals just by the mere fact that we're all like children of God, right? Just from a Christian perspective. I understand why logic. No, hold on. I understand logically that makes sense, but I think there should be different prescriptions based off of different people. And I actually do make a distinction between, higher quality people and lower quality people, right?
Would you make?
I know that's not very nice. Hold on.
Yeah, let him finish.
Let him finish.
I know that's not a very nice thing to say, but I think that's sort of the reality, unfortunately, of how things are. And based on that, and also just based on the fact that so many different people have different personalities, right? Because so much of Christianity is based on one, of course, it's been around for a while, and what's great about Christianity is it is very much champion science, contrary to popular belief. But at the same time, a lot of scientific findings, especially within psychology, I think kind of contradict some things that Christianity has taught for a while, such as having such as having a specific prescription for everybody. And I think because people's psychologies could be very different and their personalities more specifically, those prescriptions that would make sense for those specific prescriptions for all of society don't necessarily make sense on an individual basis. So there could be things. I think a Christian ethic makes the most sense for societies to function, but it comes at the expense of ostracizing certain individuals who will end up Kevin, living miserable lives.
You wouldn't say, like, when you say, well, we can't make universal prescriptions to society, like, but you would I'm sure you would agree we could make a universal prescription that you shouldn't rape, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because I have a deontological principle of where one of them is the non-aggression.
Okay.
Non-aggression.
Well, even a consequentialist would say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the consequentialist.
Well, I would say that you should probably. I'm not insulting you when I say this, but you should stop counter signaling a universal moral prescription, because you agree that we should have them for certain aspects, and there's ways we can rationalize it even when it's not direct harm.
Well, and to speak directly kind of to what you're saying, I understand what you're saying is that there's going to be men left behind, right? Mm-hmm. There's going to be people who are left behind. But what is one of the most fundamental things in Christian ethics is what? Kind of no man left behind, right? No man left behind. We're going to continue to work and work and work and work and work until you get to Christ, right? This is the goal, isn't it? And this is what all this outreach is about. So kind of to address that fundamental criticism, which I think is a fair one, what are we always working to do? We're not saying that death row inmates are beyond redemption. That's not our ethical system, is it? Oh. We're not saying that people who society has thrown out and has considered the drebs and the drubs and the pieces of shit, we're the ones who are always trying to bring them back from the brink more than anybody else, Kevin.
I still do think some things such as, and I know I really like this part of your debate with you and Alex about the whole, gay thing, but I do think it's a violation of the non-aggression principle if you try to convert or not allow gay men to have sex with each other or try to convert them through conversion therapy against their will.
You know what you should do? Get rid of the fucking non-aggression principle.
Yeah, abandon the NAP.
Bro. It's stupid as fuck, and it doesn't hold any water in your worldview. And you know what happens if you abandon it? Nothing bad. It's a stupid principle on its face. You don't really believe it anyway. Like, you would preemptively harm somebody you thought was going to harm you. Like, you're not a dumb guy.
No. Yeah, but that's because that's with the knowledge of knowing that they're about to harm you.
Even if you didn't have 100% knowledge, you couldn't be 100% sure. And by the way, unless you believe in religion, you can't really be 100% sure on anything anyway, right? There's always going to be some doubt. You would still act within that paradigm because
even religion, there's still some doubt. That's why there's the leap of faith.
Well, but the goal within orthodoxy is to eliminate all of that doubt if you can. The whole goal of it is to become more and more Christ-like. This is the goal. So what I'm saying is we're not leaving men behind. We're not advocating to leave men behind. I'm just saying that the only thing that's holding you up seems to be this kind of stupid, arbitrary principle that in practice, maybe you probably wouldn't follow anyway, because it's just kind of dumb, right? Just abandon it. Fuck it.
I think it makes a lot more sense than operating off religion from a logical perspective.
Yeah, well, I wonder where libertarians came up with a non-aggression principle to begin with, Alex. Do you think that they just, like, a guy thought that up one day, or do you think that they used the fundamental morals that have already existed in order to decide whether or not invading somebody's own personal space and harming them was bad? It's like, these aren't arbitrary concepts, are all intertwined. And what we're saying is like, look, Kevin, just get rid of the nap, and then the rest of your worldview is going to make a lot more sense.
Yeah, but I think the non-aggression principle, in a way, is very much tied to Christianity, as you pointed out, and I think that's why there's some contradictions, unfortunately.
Well, no, if God,
Andrew, stop. To bring it back, here's a question. It was a super chat from Coach K for $5. Thank you. It's to Alex, Austin, and now Kevin, since you're in the arena. Who is their ideal client that they are trying to reach? What results do you want? I'm expecting a concise answer. That's what they said. I'm just trying to bring it back to what we originally had.
We all work with different types of clients. But yeah, you guys can go first, I guess.
I'll go. I don't have an ideal type of client. Well, I guess partially I do. My ideal type of client is someone who's motivated, who's committed, and who's ready to do the work. Their goals, to me, are largely irregardless, as long as they're not something that's illegal or against my personal values. So it can be a guy who wants to have a lot of casual sex, a guy who wants to get a girlfriend, or a guy that wants to get married. I don't care at all. As long as they're committed and ready to do the work, that's my ideal type of client.
All right.
Okay, I'll go next, I guess. Well, funny enough, Andrew, you brought up virtue ethics a while ago. In a way, that's kind of what I teach. I teach self-development, self-improvement, and a fundamental framework that I use is Nicomachean Ethics by Aristotle, which has heavily influenced, Christianity, obviously. But yeah, that's sort of the framework that I try to use. And I don't necessarily look at it technically from a Christian standpoint. I do go based off of the original text. I do believe that a man's purpose in life is to be aligned with the virtues and have his rationality guide him through that. And that'll lead him to that feeling of eudaimonia, feeling happy and fulfilled. But inevitably along that journey, a lot of the guys get into self-improvement because they want to get better with girls, right? So I kind of have to sort of meet them with where they're at. And, like you being a virtuous man, girls are going to like you if you truly are that way.
You need to meet my friend Jim Bob and go on his show for an afternoon so that you can have some of these presuppositions about some of this stuff kind of expelled. I think he would be great in 2 hours in doing that. And we don't have the time this debate.
Presuppositions, like which ones?
Like it is true, but when I'm not talking about virtue ethics laid down by philosophy, but things like the cardinal virtues. I'm talking about the mixture for Christian ethics. And I think that there's no doubt that philosophy played a large role in the way that saints think about, the divine. And that's a conversation we could have kind of endlessly, and it's still endlessly going on. But I feel like you're so close. We just have to get rid of these kind of like just little stupid things that are left over from I don't know what.
Andrew, I'll tell you my background is I'm originally Catholic. Hold on. I'm originally Catholic, and I've kind of strayed away from that.
I'm picking them up, Alex. I'm picking them up, brother.
Yeah, come on, That's not cool. These were
all right. This is the crucible pickup artistry.
All right, Austin, your turn.
What was the question? It was like my ideal client.
Yes, your ideal client, and what is the ultimate message you're trying to give them, and how would you like to see them conducting themselves in society?
Well, my ideal client would be like 25 to 35 guy who he's a little nerdy, high IQ, just wants to learn how to meet girls, has his life together in other areas, but just doesn't know how to talk to girls because he was like too busy studying or whatever. That's like my favorite type of client to deal with. How would I like to see him conduct himself? I feel like that would be like a 10-page thing that I would say. I'd say don't listen to reggaeton first and foremost. Worst music out there.
Hard disagree.
What else? I don't know. I just
hard agree.
So Alex, I'm gonna give you some advice. I've been giving a lot of advice to Austin, but next time for a debate, I want you to huddle up with whoever you're gonna be coming with on your team. Huddle.
Yeah,
and create a topic, dude. We didn't even have a topic.
I did assume Alex and Austin would be more in line with their beliefs. Like for me, I don't think that Alex and Austin are pickup artists. I shit on pickup artists all the time. I think what they teach is cold approach, which is different than being a pickup artist. I'm not going to go into that too much here.
Well, I think from our perspective, we do need that to understand that nuance, and we do need to understand, like, we want to be good faith too. We want to understand your guys' perspective inside and out. And I'm not going to lie to you. It's so that we can destroy it that much better the next time we engage with it, right? But we do want to know. We do want to know.
Well, I'll tell you what I look at pickup artists as, and Austin and Alice, they might agree, disagree, but pickup artists, originally I look at it from like the book, The Game, which is very popularized. I use that as a framework because that was, that's what most people are familiar with of what a pickup artist is, and probably what you guys are too. It's basically creating this false persona instead of putting in the work needed to become, for lack of a better word, an alpha male, like that archetype of the alpha male. You actually use a sequence and series of lines and try to act like that to trick the girl into thinking that you are an alpha male when you're not, right? And so I am totally against that.
Gamma behavior? Isn't that what that's called? Gamma behavior? I heard a guy named Vox Day say that one time. Gamma?
Maybe, yeah. That sounds like something a gamma would do. So I'm pretty sure, Alex and Austin, do you agree with my assessment that that's like that form of pickup is cringe?
That form of pickup is cringe, but that's a small part of the pickup.
No. But that's what most people think of as pickup artists. Like even Andrew was like shaking his head, right?
I think Alex is actually kind of in line with that, and I can explain why.
Okay, interesting. Because for me, I don't think that he is, and I'm definitely not in line with that. So that's where I make the distinction between they teach cold approach.
I've been patiently waiting to ask my questions for like an hour. After I get through with that, Zen, you can ask me all the questions you want.
Well, I don't want to ask any questions. I was just going to point out, like, real quick. I promise I'll be quick. How about this? I'll say what I'll say. You respond to it, and then just go into your line of question. Okay. I won't get a rebuttal to what you say.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. So what I was going to reference your debate you had with Mr. Girl, which, by the way, he's cringe. I think he spoke pretty much 90% nonsense in that debate. But there was one line that he was going down. He has his moments where he actually was doing a good job. He even articulated it better than I probably could have. That when you say, I've heard you mention this before, avoid politics, avoid religion when we're talking about when we're talking to girls, dating, whatever. But the thing is, politics and religion, to somebody who is into those things, that's going to be a major, major aspect of their life. And there's a lot of these girls on Tinder and just in the general sphere, the dating sphere, that are left-leaning liberals, and they, if they find out a guy likes Trump, for example, they're going to be like, ew, no, gross, no, don't touch me, get away. And then if, on the other side of that coin, if like a guy hides that he likes Trump, gets, seals the deal with the girl, gets her in bed, and then she finds out later, she's going to be like, ew, what have I done? So there is kind of this component of, by saying, hey, avoid politics and avoid religion, avoid your true self to seal the deal. That's kind of inauthentic. It's teaching a man. It's kind of like being a swindler, and that's where I would actually agree with Mr. Girl on his take there. That there's some aspect of immorality that you're almost lying to. You're putting on a persona that you're actually not, just to get a girl in bed. It's not authentic. But
all right, is it lying?
Wait, it's Kevin's turn. I mean, sorry, it's Alex's turn. Okay. It's Alex's turn. Alex Zen has just made himself heterodox by agreeing with Mr. Girl. So go for that. It's up
get
to
him off this panel.
Let me just ask one question. Let's say you are like 5-10 minutes late to a date with a girl, and that's because you had really bad diarrhea and you could not stop yourself from shitting. And if the girl is like, hey, why are you late? Do you think it would be unethical to just be like, oh, I got stuck in traffic? Or do you feel like you have to tell her that you were taking a wicked shit?
No, we don't. Well, I'll let Zen respond, but no, it would be just fine to not volunteer that information.
Okay.
But I would say that the political persuasion that you have is such an intricate part of who you are, whereas diarrhea most likely is not. But if you suffered maybe from chronic diarrhea, like you had Crohn's and you hit that, wouldn't you consider that to be you hiding a huge aspect of who you were and what you were?
or if you had like active herpes and didn't tell her, if you had, you know, HIV, didn't tell her. I mean, there's
I think that's apples to oranges.
Well, no, it is that's correct. It is apples to oranges. Like having a spat of diarrhea, and withholding that, it's really just not a big deal. Like, okay, yeah, I had to shit.
It is a form of lying, right?
It is a form, but that's where, I mean, but.
Well, couldn't you make the argument though that you not disclosing your political affiliations isn't a big deal either? Because it might just be some stupid thing that the girl has that's like dumb, or somebody just told her, "Oh, all Trump supporters are evil," but you know that she has that thing, and that's why she's.
What if politics is not that important to you? What if you don't?
Well, that's why I prefaced it. A lot of guys, especially that are on the right wing, politics and religion in particular, somebody who's religious, this is often like the guiding light for how they live. I mean, this is like a major aspect of their life, if they're heavily into politics on the right or if they're heavily religious. But if you say to avoid both of those topics, like, you could be encouraging a guy who's otherwise really into this stuff to not be his authentic self. That's kind of what I was getting at with that.
So you would be okay with a guy avoiding that topic, assuming that politics isn't really important to him, right?
No, we're talking about a diametric makeup of who a person is, and if this is an intricate part of who they are or not. Having a spout of diarrhea is deceptive, that's true, but we can scale this back to some type of reasonability. Yes, it's true, it's embarrassing, and it is deceptive that maybe you didn't tell her that. We wouldn't even necessarily recommend that you didn't tell her that. We would just understand why you wouldn't. What we're saying is that that's not going to be a fundamental.
That's not true. You guys
hang on. That's not going to be a fundamental grounding of who you are, though. Whereas your political persuasion may be responsible for 60 or 70% of your thought process. You know what I mean?
Doesn't it matter though, like why that girl has that sort of questioning? So if you understand that she's just going to straw man you into saying like she'll just automatically think you're this evil person, which isn't representative of who you are. if you actually are doing yourself a service to represent your best self,
then why do you want to fuck her?
Case,
then why
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
No. Okay, so let's say that's not the case either. Like, let's say you actually are genuinely like you're trying to save it till marriage or something. You really vibe with this girl, but she has this like really weird, messed up idea somebody planted in her head that all Trump supporters are evil. I think the best course of action for that, maybe if she said like, "Oh, are you a Trump supporter?" Like maybe you don't have to outwardly lie and say like, "No, I love Bernie Sanders." Like, of course that's wrong, but you could just be like, "Well, I don't like to disclose that information," or "I'm curious why you're curious."
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, Kevin, look, okay, so I'm on a date with a chick, really, and she's like, "Are you a Trump supporter?" And I go, "I would prefer not to disclose that information," right?
That's
but there's other ways to do that.
Hang on, what's going to go?
You can just be like, I'm not that political.
What's going to go through her brain the second I say I'm not going to disclose that information, Kevin?
Wait.
You don't have to say it that way, but you can be like, well, I don't really get into politics.
You can be I think you're building the wall yourself.
Hang on. That would be my problem.
That's boring.
That would be my problem, Kevin, is that if you are heavily influenced by your political views or your religious views, and then the girl asks you, "Hey, what are your religious views?" and you say, "I'm not into that stuff," you just lied about who your persona is. You're now forced to put on an inauthentic persona to continue your goal, which is to get her in bed.
No, because her entire idea of what a Trump supporter is automatically a straw man of you. So she might authentically be, see you for as you are, but then that gets bastardized through her own delusion. And you're just feeding into that delusion by playing into that. I can actually have a perfect example of this. My ex-girlfriend,
who is now your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah,
I want to
she's
point
my
that
ex-girlfriend
out.
for other reasons, right? But yeah, no, she had those types of things. I remember her asking me about my political affiliations. I was like, I'm just not a very political guy, right? But then her and I ended up having a relationship for like 2 years. It was great. But then, if I had just told her right then and there, like, "Oh yes, I'm a Republican," she automatically has all these bad ideas of what a Republican is that isn't actually representative of who I am. And so for me, I was able to have the foresight to see that.
Well,
I was able to preemptively, because you talked about preemptive strikes before, right? I was able to preemptively dictate that she was actually attacking her best interest and my best interest off of a delusion.
Well, how do we know though, for sure, or even with 50% surety that if you had said, I am a Republican, that she would have just ditched you? Do you think that there's no other qualification she was interested in you with, and that just would have been a deal breaker? And then what are you basing that on?
There goes my line.
Well, I'm basing off of past experiences of girls who are leftists who literally think Trump supporters are evil.
Give it.
She doesn't know me enough.
We do have to give it over.
So if she knew me enough to understand that, yes, I'm not actually. If I just give her that information, that's it on the first day. Yes, I voted for Trump. She's like, she doesn't know that much more information about me. She just paints me as some like redneck, hick, asshole, anti-woman, whatever. Right. But then if I give her the chance to actually understand me a bit more.
Let's close this off.
We have to give it back to Alex.
Last word. Let me have last word, and Alex. I promise, Alex. I was not even going to be directed at Alex. I think our point has been made. And Kevin, I would just say stop identifying as a Republican. Just give your ideology and just try to paint it in a way that is appealing and be authentic. That's what I would say. Go to your line of questioning now, Alex. I want to hear it. I really do.
Okay. I appreciate the support. I do want to very quickly address the previous thing.
And he wants to stay on the other. Okay.
We'll get into my
don't complain about us not giving you your line.
No, it's going to be very quick. And let's limit it to me and Zen, and Andrew jump in if you feel necessary. So are you saying that it would be okay if politics are not important to you at all to then withhold your political affiliation?
Yeah, because it doesn't have that much of an effect.
Well, why would you even have a political affiliation if politics aren't important to you at all? That makes no sense.
Well,
that's an incoherent question.
No, I would be a perfect example of that. Politics are not that important to me, but I like the intellectual, I guess, stimulation of watching like presidential debates and like reading the news.
Then they're important to you.
No, they're not important to me. I don't care.
Well, then why do you watch presidential debates?
Because I find it interesting.
Okay, what's interesting about it?
It's interesting to you. That's good enough. It's interesting.
I mean, that's the whole point. It's like you're asking a question and you know the answer to it. It was like, if I'm not interested in something and I don't care about it at all, should I disclose the fact that I care about the thing to this woman? It's not this thing that I don't care about, right? It doesn't even make sense.
Alex, the answer to your question is, if you're giving an authentic answer, like if you're saying, well, like, yeah, I watch it, it's fun, it's interesting, but it doesn't heavily influence my life that much, like, so I could care less either way. If that's truly how you feel, then fine. But if you're like Kevin, who says like I don't know if you're like a hard Republican voting Trump supporter, hardline conservative, and then you say, but I'm not into politics, I don't care. Politics don't influence me. That's an outright lie. It's like, so it's different. That's like,
okay.
So when
so really quickly with that though, hold on. So somebody had a really good chat. I usually don't put this up. He's kind of made my point. Is lying to somebody who's prejudiced immoral, right? So if you determine that somebody,
guys, I'm telling you, that's where I just tell you that you're losing.
That's Alex's fault.
That's where I think. Hold on. That's where I think some. Hold on. That's where I think some deontology has its flaws sometimes. Where you're like, you have this moral duty to these certain norms that can come to your detriment at times. So that's a perfect example.
No, I don't think so. We allow for leeway inside of the ethic, understanding that we still have reason and logic, and that there are times where there's appropriate lies. Nobody's saying that that's not true.
And I think that's an appropriate lie at that point.
Well,
if somebody's idea of a Trump supporter is somebody who's a bad person,
for the purposes of self-preservation, of course. And so nobody's saying that, if the Klan is saying, let's say you have like white makeup on or something and they can't tell you're black, and the Klan's like, we're going to, lynch someone tonight or whatever. And they show up and you're like, well, no, I'm not black, right? We're not going to say, that's immoral. You got to tell those white hoods the truth, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. That would be absurd on its face. So to answer your chatter, like, we temper everything with the logic and reason that God gave us. We understand that there's also an intent behind the commandments, not just the commandments. We understand the same thing as to why Jesus taught in parables. Right? It was to allow the leeway for logic and reason to go in and have you end the lesson of the parable. He didn't need to tell you what it was. He gave you the parable for a reason.
And I think in that case, the logical, reasonable thing to do would be to not misrepresent yourself by telling the truth to somebody who's prejudiced against you. like they have a false idea of what a Trump supporter is, and you're feeding into that and actively hurting who you actually are by playing into that. So I think in that sense, I'm very careful with saying this, but technically the ends justify the means from that standpoint.
It's not the ends justify the means. I think that you're still acting in a moral way that is in line with what your duties are. What is your duty to, at that point, tell them this perception that's going to literally cause you to get killed or something like this? That would be bizarre, and it would not be in line with our ethical thinking whatsoever. At that point, you're aiding them in murdering you, and murder is, again, also against the Ten Commandments, right? And against the teachings of Christian ethics. So, no, I don't think that that's a great worldview or a great way to attack us through that argument. Though I will agree that it had more merit than almost any other argument tonight did, except for a couple of Austins. But I think it's that's
because Austin agreed with you.
Well, that's why they have more merit. I just feel like it's pretty simple.
No, I had a lot of points that disagreed with him.
That's true. I just think it's very simply addressed through reason. That's all.
Let me get back to my questioning. So then, you and I largely agree, Zen. I would say that if you're looking for a serious relationship and politics is really important to you, then yeah, you should be upfront about that on your date to make sure you're compatible with a girl. The one thing I will give as a caveat is in my personal situation, my girlfriend is like a very strong liberal. I'm more of a libertarian moderate. And as far as I understand, if I told her on the first date about my political positions, then there would not be a happy ending. But when she got to know me and understand me, I was able to explain to her and she was able to understand it. So, there's some credence doing it that way. But yeah,
Can we bring it back to the debate?
Yes, that's what I am
political views
about to do.
Okay. Get your line of questioning.
All right, let's get into it. So this is going back to what we were talking about, sex before marriage. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you don't really believe the argument that the reason you shouldn't have sex before marriage is because of a study that says that it will increase your happiness. It sounds
correct. That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cool. Props to admitting that. It sounds like your main argument is religion.
Correct.
Do you have any other arguments besides your personal faith for why men should not have sex until marriage?
No.
Like we just want to know. At this point, we just want to know where the logic line leads because you won't give it up. We've already expressed to you multiple times. We don't have to make arguments based on our worldview. We only have to make arguments based on your worldview. Now, to be fair, Alex, you can do the same thing to us and completely crush our worldview and show that we're hypocrites and idiots and morons. But we're presenting arguments in your worldview so that we can communicate with you. You don't believe in our worldview. We get that. We understand. Why would we make an argument from a worldview we know you dismiss? We're in your world. If you want to come into our world and make arguments against our worldview, be my guest. We're right here to defend it. We're right here to fight back against it, but you have not done that. So how do I communicate with you except through your worldview? How do I do that?
But you don't actually believe in the argument that you're making based on my
we believe that's true and that we think that that's good.
What you did there, Alex, you said, okay, you don't actually believe in the outcomes-based argument you made. And I said, no, I don't. You said, you believe in a religious-based argument. I said, yeah, I do. He's like, do you have any other actual arguments that you believe in? No, I don't. So then what follows there is you're going to say, well, I don't believe in your worldview, so I dismiss it. What if we did the same thing to you? You see how there's no productive conversation to be had.
I think this is where my job does come in as moderator in order to make the bridge between you. So, Alex, this is exactly what's happening, and your line of questioning fleshed it out perfectly. You asked Zen, is this all based on your religion? He said yes. So you have nothing but your faith to answer for on why you conduct yourself the way you do. Yes. This is directly, if you were to look at how we think in his lens and his worldview through which he answers all your questions, we're not supposed to answer you according to your worldview when you're examining our worldview. And we're supposed to answer according to your worldview when we're examining it. Does that make sense at all? And does that go over your head at all?
Partially. But Pedro, they don't have to adopt to my worldview. They just have to make an argument that's not based on their personal faith.
We already did.
Okay. So
hang on. How is that not an argument based on our personal faith? We made an argument not based on our personal faith, based on outcomes, based on 100 different other factors that you will believe.
But
right? Why is it important that we believe it if you believe it?
Alex, basically what happened is they said that they don't even need to argue from their point of view. They're stepping into your point of view and arguing with your value system in a way that you lose based on even your value system. That's what.
So really quickly,
this is correct. And then when you ask us questions,
that's what they just explained for the past 5 minutes. I'm just summarizing.
Yeah. And then when you ask us questions, like you went through your line of questioning with Zen, you're now trying to go into his worldview and flip it on its head, but the table's too heavy.
So what I was going to say too about the whole faith thing, it sounds, Alex, do you reject arguments?
By the way, guys, I got a jet. I'm sorry, but it's really late. It's almost 1 in the morning, and I got to go to work in the morning.
Like another 15 minutes?
Well, yeah, I can do another 15 minutes.
Yeah, I would like to go soon too. But let me just ask you this.
I think I can say one thing really quickly so Alex understands, and maybe you guys can all. So in the Christian worldview, everything, there's something called I think it's called like infinite regress or something, where the problem with non-religious people is they don't have like a first cause to bring all of their everything back to, where Christians do. So everything eventually does come back to God because God said so, right? And because this is what God said or whatever. And people who aren't religious, they don't have that as a fundamental basis to go back to. Am I representing that correctly?
It's close enough. It's close enough for continue.
I mean, so hold on. The thing is with that is like again, one of Christianity's strengths is that it's so logos based and everything, but I just think that human beings are fundamentally illogical, although we're more logical than all other animals in the animal kingdom. And I think a lot of modern psychology kind of shows that to be the case and everything. So, I think like technically from a logically consistent basis, Christianity and other religions are very logically consistent because it has like a first thing that it ties it back to. But I don't think that necessarily inherently makes it correct, because it's championing logic as the fundamental number one thing, which I don't necessarily, although logic is great. I don't necessarily prescribe to that.
Yeah, hold up, Zen. I got to make sure, because we're in the last 15 minutes here, I have to make sure I did my job. Alex, that was your line of questioning that you had with Zen.
No. I have a few more things I would like to bring up.
Man, I want to, because I can kind of flesh it out a little bit. It sounds like you object to our worldview in principle because it is faith-based, right? Is that what you're saying there, Alex?
Partially.
Don't answer that question. It's a trap.
Partially. Dude, let me talk. I am saying that you made two arguments for why people should not have premarital sex. One of those arguments you don't believe in.
Correct.
So that's left with the other argument, which is
faith-based.
Yes.
And you object to that because it's faith-based.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So my thing is, I think I might have mentioned this earlier, every argument, every worldview is faith-based. And I'll give you one. I'll walk you through this. Okay. Has your mother ever told you she loves you?
Yes, many times.
Did you measure the oxytocin levels in her brain?
Yes, many times.
Yeah, you're lying. You're lying and you know it.
Yeah, no.
You didn't measure the oxytocin levels in her brain. You have faith that she's telling you the truth. Now, another example, the studies that you often reference for whatever it may be, not necessarily for this debate, but any debate you ever do where you reference studies, have you ever been there present for the studies that when they are conducted?
No.
So then you would have faith that they were conducted properly.
This reminds me of It's Always Sunny, but yeah, sure.
So the point of that is that every argument to some degree at some point is going to reach a faith level, a level of faith, a leap of faith that you put in your standards. Whatever the standards you're applying, you have faith that they are correct, that they were conducted correctly if they're studies, that it's the true God, if you believe in God, whatever it is, you have faith. that
this is called the
what you're
false
arguing
equivalency
for.
fallacy.
So,
This is Austin is right about that for once. That is a little bit of false equivalency. The first argument that you made that was about that study, that was largely a logical argument. You can argue that there's a small amount of faith that's involved in me believing that study, but it's largely a logical argument. The problem,
you have faith in logic.
The problem is that you don't really believe that argument. So that brings us back to, well, in the Bible, it said that you shouldn't have premarital sex.
Where?
I'm assuming your thing is coming from religion. You've said that multiple times.
Well, you just made a statement that the Bible says you should have sex before premarital sex.
No, I said that you should not have premarital sex.
Oh, okay, correct. Okay, no. So moving into this, are you going to answer to Zen's question and understand that just by you saying this is a logical argument, that you have faith that logic is correct? His whole point is that everything boils down to logic. Again, we were not making an argument from our worldview of why we think it's correct. Rather, we were making an argument from your worldview of why this outcome would be preferable to you and why you should yield over to us due to that. So if you want to attack our worldview, you should do that. And we're welcoming you to do it. We're welcoming you to attack our faith. We're welcoming you to attack our logic. But until you can do that, we have no choice but to operate within your purview, because that's the language you speak, Alex. So we're going to speak that language. You can give us a different language to speak, we'll speak that language.
Andrew, the problem with that is that you don't actually believe that.
It's called an internal critique, Alex. If I just launch an attack and say, you shouldn't do pickup because God says it's bad, that's just an external attack that doesn't apply to you, and you're gonna be like, well, I don't believe in God, so dismissed.
Yeah, bye.
But when we enter into your worldview and we say, okay, you don't believe in God, you believe in this standard. Well, let's apply this standard.
We should move on from this point. This point has been said 4 times.
Dude, I have not had a chance.
There's one.
Alex, if you haven't gotten it by the 4th or 5th time, there's no hope.
I want to let you know too, just so you understand, we do believe the argument. Like, you keep saying we don't believe the argument. We do believe the argument. We do believe that these are facts, that the quality of life drastically increases for these people and this and that. We're just not grounding the argument the same way you are. We're grounding what we're saying with God. We still believe that this is all true. It's just not the primary reason that we would advocate for these things. So when you say you don't believe the argument, no, we definitely believe the argument. I don't even know what you mean by that.
Several times that he does not believe in that argument.
Well, I was trying to flesh out. He's trying to get you to understand something fundamental, which is that it wouldn't matter if he didn't.
Yeah, I was just steelmanning to get to the end.
It makes a big difference whether you actually believe in the argument or not, because if you don't believe in that argument, then I can't point out logical inconsistencies because you don't believe.
That's the point. Well, that's the whole point, Alex. That's exactly how we're trying to catfish you, as it were. Like, we're being totally honest about this. We're not in our worldview. We're in yours. We're fighting you on ground you understand, with weapons that you chose, on the battlefield that you chose, with the partners that you chose. Everything was your choosing. We're meeting you where you're at with the weapons that you chose. You can't get mad at us for that.
Okay, and Alex, you tend to get caught in like little details as opposed to like the overarching thing.
I get.
Do you believe this, the thing that you're saying from my worldview or not? It's like they don't believe it, therefore no.
I understand. Let me finish.
The overall point.
Let me finish. First of all, logic is a pretty standard language to be spoken in a debate.
Doesn't mean anything.
So what I'm doing is not like outside the realm of debates or having discussions or discourse.
We're not even saying that you are. That's just fine.
Secondly, if I make an argument that, I think having premarital sex is totally fine, and then you start poking holes in my logic, and I just say, well, I don't really believe in that argument, it comes down to this religion I have, that's pretty disgenuine.
Why?
Because I'm making an argument that I don't really believe in, and then I can fall back to the fact that I don't believe in it when logical inconsistencies are pointed out.
First of all, let's examine this so that you understand better. We do believe in the argument because we made the argument. We absolutely have faith that we made the argument. We know 100% we have belief in the argument. We're just saying that our grounding is different. That's it. That's the only difference here. And we're making an argument based on things you'll understand. We can't speak to you in Chinese. Why can't we speak to you in Chinese, Alex?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, but Zen has said.
Why no? Answer me. Why can't? No, nobody can say shit.
Okay,
why can't I speak to you in Chinese? Austin, I want this answered. Why can't I speak to you in
20 minutes on a technical thing that they've been
Wait. Let Alex answer this, and then I want to say something.
No, hang on. I do want to get like 3.5 hours in. Still can't get through. Like,
wait. Can I just, Alex? Just trust me on this one. I think maybe I can solve this. Okay. So, Alex, your whole thing is that you're arguing just based off of logic. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Andrew and Zen, you guys are saying you're just arguing off of faith?
No.
Or faith in, just off of God. No,
again.
No, because that's why I'm confused. Because it's like, well,
you're not confused.
Well, part of
it's not confusing. Listen, I'll ask you, Kevin.
Okay.
Do you speak Spanish?
No.
Can we have this debate in Spanish?
We could, but it'd be very weird.
Well, would you understand anything I was saying?
Vamos a hablar en
Google
español.
Translate, maybe.
So,
no.
Okay, so then I need to speak to you in a language you understand, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the only way that I can do that is to operate within a worldview that you understand. I don't pretend that you know my worldview because you haven't made a single argument against it, so I assume you don't. So how else can I talk to you?
No, I totally understand, but
well, then that's it. No.
Alex's worldview.
This entire debate, they've been doing the same thing.
Do you agree with Alex's claim that he's arguing off of logic and you guys are arguing just off of faith, and that's it? That's what I'm asking you.
No, I don't.
You guys are arguing off of logic too, right?
Well,
Pedro, let me instill some.
No,
yeah,
I want to answer Kevin's question.
No, Austin, stop. Zen, go ahead.
Hey, no, all of you stop.
No.
Zen, stop. You have to stop. And now I'm going to give it to you, Zen. Yes, I agree.
Thank you. Wait. All right, go ahead. Okay, so no, I think I illustrated about 5-10 minutes ago that we're actually both arguing from a place of faith in our foundations. So we have faith in God. He has faith in studies. He has faith in logic. He has faith in, the material. So I think it's a false dichotomy to say one's arguing with logic, one's arguing with faith. I think we both have faith. We derive our logic from different sources, but to dismiss one or the other due to faith is bad faith. It's disingenuous. Because
I agree with that, but that also confuses me as to like what language exactly of Alex's are you speaking then? Because I agree that we're both arguing off of our faith in science and faith in.
I can explain it. Would you say that I have a better understanding of Alex's view, or he has a better understanding of mine?
You have a better understanding.
You have a better understanding.
I have a better understanding of Alex's view. So which language should I use?
Okay, let me sum this up in 20 seconds so we can move on, because this is so pointless. Alex,
I don't think it's pointless. I think it's at the center of everything.
Pedro, enforce my right to speak.
Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, we have to go Austin now.
Still some fucking reason into this. Alex, the start of the debate, Andrew and Zen asked you all of your beliefs, where do you get these ideas from, and then they used your exact ideas to dismantle what you said. So that has been done transparently from the beginning. The fact that you're now at 3 hours in thinking like they just pulled the rug under you is weird. So that's what happened. Now we can move on. Can I bring up? Can I?
Wait. Austin. Now it's Alex's turn. Go.
Yeah, I want to get through this shit. First of all, no one is saying they pulled the rug from under me. I understand.
You said it was disingenuous, and you acted surprised when they said that they argued from your point of view. How is that a surprise?
So really quickly, Alex, I think we can simplify this. Alex is arguing from a place of faith in the scientific method.
Let Alex.
I can summarize this. I can solve this right now.
Let Alex talk for himself. Let Alex talk for himself.
Alex, can I talk for you for a second, please?
I don't understand.
I can.
How do you get stuck on this confusion for 30 minutes? It's like
Alex is operating off of the faith.
Hold on. And I cannot finish.
Alex, I'm helping you. I
could have done this in like 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Alex, I'm helping you. Okay, so Alex is arguing off of a place of faith in the scientific method. You guys are operating from the place of faith in
Again,
God.
how do you say things like that? There's obviously different levels of epistemology. It's a false equivalency to say faith in science is the same as faith in God.
I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. Of course, that's a very reductionist way of that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, they're both faith-based for sure. If you study, if you know, that's why the entire philosophy of science exists.
Well, we're
right?
saying
because
that Alex doesn't have a coherent epistemology at all. This has been, literally, this has been our argument from the inception of this debate, is that he doesn't have a coherent.
Why does the debate have to be centered around Alex's?
Well, it doesn't. Well, it doesn't have to be centered around that. However, if I query to you, why is it that you believe these things? And you say, well, because I just do. Don't you think we have a problem?
Okay. Yeah, that is a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's let Alex here.
Do you agree that there's different levels of epistemology? Like there's different levels of knowing how you can know. You can verify things with more methods, and then it increases the level.
Alex, I will
accuracy.
steelman the answers to all your questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. I completely lost. Oh, we lost Pedro.
No, my camera just powered out.
He'll be back. He'll be back.
Okay, cool. Okay. Getting back to where I was. There's a fundamental difference between me making an argument that I believe in and me making an argument that I do not believe in. They're not the same thing, because it's called the modern.
How are you still on that?
Hang on, dude. Just shut up for a second.
It's called an internal critique.
Because if I make an argument that I don't believe in, when people point out logical contradictions, which is what I've done, you can just go back and say, well, I don't really believe in this argument. My main argument is the fact that, it comes from religion. Now, it sounds like, and I want to clarify this, I'm getting different answers from you, Andrew, and you, Zen. It sounds like for you, Zen, you don't really believe in that logical study argument. For you, Andrew, it sounds like you believe in it a little bit. Is that correct?
No, we both believe that it's real and it's true. We just don't use it as the basis for our argument. Can I give you a just quick example? I promise this will be quick and you can get right back on it. I'm well known for being a pro-life debater, an anti-abortion debater. And many times I'll investigate my opponent's worldview and they'll say things like, well, it's justified to have an abortion to prevent the poverty for the mother and the child. And I'll ask them, okay, so you believe that a human being is better off dead than poor, and if they spun that question back on me and said, well, do you believe that? I would say, if I was pro-choice and I was making the argument that you say, I would say yes, and that we should round up all the poor kids and kill them. But I don't believe that. I say I'm actually pro-life, so I would oppose that in principle. But doing an internal critique, you would apply that. And when they try to spin it back on you, say, to be consistent, I would have to say yes. But thankfully, I don't believe in that argument in my own worldview. So again, internal critique.
So So I just want to clarify one last time. So you don't really believe in that argument about what's it called? Getting married, increasing happiness.
As the basis for why we ought to get married. Ultimately, no.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, I'll end it here. I do think that it is a very, very weak argument if all you can say is the basis for why you should get married is because in a book 2,000 years ago, it said that you should do that. I mean, I think that's a really weak argument.
Versus a book from 20 minutes ago that said that you ought not do that. You know what I mean? Like these become so cyclical and silly. That's his whole point with faith, Alex, is that you have as much faith that what you're saying is true as me. It's just that we can critique your worldview and destroy it, which we did, and you can't critique ours, and that should be problematic for you.
Dude, I can totally
destroy hypocrisy.
Dude, I can totally destroy religion. It's just that was not the point of this debate, and that would take a lot of time. And I didn't want to also.
Yeah, I think you're overestimating your abilities. Right
would you like to try and have a debate where you're
not now, please?
No.
If Andrew and Zen are cool with it, I would totally be down for that. I mean,
Alex versus
I'm not going to partner up with you on that debate.
Christianity, that'd be a good one.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I would love that.
What is it? What versus Christianity?
It's Alex. Alex would be debating for the secular worldview, and I would be debating for the Christian worldview. Okay. Austin, you want to turn this into your closing statement, sir?
Yeah, so this is my closing statements. So to summarize the debate, I'm going to go through some of the points. These are the things I agree with Alex on, and I agree with Zen and Andrew on some other things. Yeah. Alex said you can have sex and get married. I believe in both of those. I feel like game and self-development are vehicles to achieve the outcomes you want in your dating life, whether that's marriage or otherwise. I think I demonstrated that point pretty well. The points I think Zen and Andrew made that were really strong were that children, families, people, society in general have better outcomes in marriages. I would love to see that society. I think my problem is that the difference between being pragmatic and ideal. Like, for example, pragmatic, if you have bad teeth, you go to a dentist. If you have a broken car, you go to a mechanic. And if you struggle in your dating life, like a quarter of men do, and can't get any women interested in them whatsoever, you go to a dating coach, right? I think that Zen brought up a false dichotomy when he said pickup artistry is about wooing women to your bed versus their side is just about virginity until marriage. I think there's a spectrum between there where you can also just become confident with women in general through game. You can have sex and then you can also get married. So I think that point goes to me and Alex on that. Alex made 3 bad points. He said that the birth rate is increasing and therefore we should have less kids. That's just incorrect. Factually,
yeah, but I did.
He said the body count doesn't affect women's ability to pair bond. It does affect women's ability to pair bond down to the level of the receptor of genes or the level of the genes. And then Alex misinterpreted the whole debate in terms of you going into his worldview to debate him. And he didn't understand that until the very end when that was transparent for the whole thing. What else did I like? I like that you guys are logically consistent in your values, and it makes sense. I don't agree with your values. I'm with Alex in that I don't think monotheistic religion from the Mesopotamia area is the best religion. I actually think that polytheistic religions prior to that and hunter-gatherer tribes are actually a better reflection of human values. And I think that hunter-gatherer societies are generally happier than agricultural societies where you derive your values and your religion from. I don't think that the modern SJW blue-haired, like I'm just going to fuck 300 guys is the way to be happy. And my final thing that I'm going to say is that what I teach, and I think what Alex teaches to a large extent, is an adaptation to a complicated dating market. And I think you can still take the techniques that you learn in game as a vehicle to get where you want to go, whether it be marriage or elsewhere. So that's my whole summary of the whole debate and my closing statements. I yield my time.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Austin. Everybody, that was Austin saying we should return to the hunter-gatherer tribes chasing caribou by season. Don't know how it's going to exactly work out, but it would be cool. I like hunting. Alex?
Let's do it.
Let's go on a hunt, Pedro. I want to thank Andrew and Zen for coming on. I think you guys were
Thanks for having us, by the way.
I think you guys, even though we largely disagree on these topics, I think you guys are good sports, and I appreciate that. I think that's what matters, and that's what makes me respect you guys. So appreciate you guys. Austin, I don't know, I might reconsider our friendship after this, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I started off my closing statement with what you got right.
And Alex, on behalf of the Crucible, I'd like to say we do appreciate you debating with us. We see you as a good sport. Honestly, you never spurged out or had like a critical crazy moment. Usually, I've seen Zen and Andrew drive people to that point where they want to burn their own house down. But you did not reach there. You kept a level of decorum, and you adhered to my words when I spoke. So I very much appreciate you.
Well, I think I was more frustrated with Austin than I was with Zen or Andrew.
I didn't speak for like an hour straight. If you go back and watch the stream, I was sitting there with my mouth going, "Please, can sometime during this debate, can this not be about Alex and his particular thoughts about prostitution? Can this be about the fucking debate topic? Jesus Christ."
Gotcha. I think the next one should go is Kevin Ray Wilder.
There was more to my closing thoughts, so that was just the preface.
Okay. Oh, there's more? Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more. Okay, so with that being said, I do think it is pretty telling that when pushed on the argument, really the only thing you have is your personal worldview and your personal religion. So I think there is a massive difference.
Dude, Alex, you got to write down the things they say next time.
Let me finish. This is what I mean. Nonstop interruptions from this guy. I think there's a massive difference between an
All right, let's go back and watch the debate. We'll see the
Okay, Austin, this is closing statements uninterrupted. This is just the closing statement.
I'm just muting Austin.
Benedict Austin.
Yeah. I think there's a massive difference between the argument that's based in studies, science, and logic, an argument that's based in religion. That's basically my thoughts on that. Yeah.
But they use that during the debate.
Okay.
It's a closing statement, Austin. There's no rebuttals. There's no rebuttals. Okay. Pass it to Kevin.
That note goes for everyone. Everyone should literally write stuff down and have longer periods of time they speak. Because if you don't, you just jump and then you forget, and then you're like,
I've been writing things.
Yeah, I write things down too.
The entire
day. I never write down anything in debate.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll go, Pedro.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a couple of critiques. I don't agree with Austin's summary of the debate exactly. I think that when he says pragmatism, he means something differently than the logical school of pragmatism. I don't think that he's operating within that. I think that he means the word differently than that. But I do appreciate the summary either way. I think that he is correct that Alex just basically was not kind of understanding what we were trying to lay down. And we did try to lay it down every different way we possibly could think of, and it just didn't take. So
I understand your argument.
No, well, I mean, no, you don't.
Arguing.
Closing argument. It is my closing. So
we should do a 24-hour stream.
I don't think you really do, because if you did really understand what my argument was, you wouldn't be making the arguments you were making. So try to understand that it's okay for us to contradict our worldview from your worldview when we're operating within your worldview, and that's really what the point of it is. We're trying to show you inside the thread of your logic where your logic is incorrect, and then you could explore ours, and you could say your logic's incorrect here or there, and make us defend it. We just never had to do that in this debate, because it seemed like you kind of had this gotcha and you wanted to get through to the gotcha, but Alex, it was just never really a gotcha. I'm just going to be honest with you. There was no way it was ever going to nail us. You had no chance with it. You should have just abandoned it early on. It made no sense, and it still doesn't. But from the crucible to everybody who's watching on anybody's channel right now, we always do appreciate the fact that other channels will invite us on to debate. Alex has been a savage in that regard. We've done several debates with him thus far, and we do appreciate it. In closing, I would say I do think most people here agree with our worldview, and that we made our points better, and that if you were operating within the society that we propose, everybody seems to universally agree it would be a better society. So we just ask you to push for it. That's all.
All right, and that was the man who I would wish stopped smoking so he would live longer and be able to be on this logical battlefield with me longer.
Yo, you got to take ibogaine, Andrew. If you take ibogaine, I think it's one of the most effective ways to quit smoking.
Okay. Yeah, I've gotten enough shit. I'm gonna quit soon.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give in the first time.
Austin, whatever that concoction you just stated is, email that to him. Okay.
Yeah.
And now
ibogaine. You can go to Canada and take it. It's basically like a psychedelic, and it is not pleasant, but most people quit their addictions after doing it.
Okay, then he can't take that. I don't think he's going to sign up for that.
The Lord wants you to quit smoking, Andrew. When are you going to repent and follow the Lord?
Let's move on, guys.
We got to move on.
Come on, dude.
Yeah. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, so I came in here because Austin is a big fat traitor, and I had to come in and save my boy Alex.
Agreed.
But regardless of that, it's interesting because I'm not necessarily 100% on Alex's side either. I'm probably the halfway point between the Crucible debaters, at least the present ones, Zen Shapiro and Andrew, and Alex. I'm probably right in between you guys. Yeah, but funny enough, actually, my worldview, at least in terms of this particular debate, is very similar to Austin's, in which I look at game PUA as just sort of a vehicle for you to get from point A to point B. For point A to point B, so somebody who just wants monogamous marriage, no sex till marriage, can still utilize game, for example, PUA type stuff, and use that as a practical way to get the wife of his dreams, for example, right? Now, at the same time, of course, you can still use that for other things as well, but I look at it more as a tool from that standpoint. So from that standpoint, yeah, if I had to say who I agree with the most on this panel, it would be Austin from that standpoint.
Awesome. Thank you for that closing statement, sir. That was Kevin Ray Waller, the prodigal son who should just come home already. Zen, you are up.
That's what my dad calls me to.
Is your dad Christian, Kevin?
He's the president of a pro-life organization.
Yeah,
so
he's probably Christian.
Very, very Catholic.
Go for it.
Yeah. It was a good debate. I appreciate you guys having us on. I mean, I'm mostly going to just be echoing what BPF said. I think it's worth noting, like, as lopsided as I interpreted this to be, and a lot of people might interpret it to be, like, for what it's worth, BPF and I on a team together, this is cheating. This is like performance enhancing drugs.
Well, it's not just you and BPF. It's you, BPF, Austin.
But that speaks volumes.
Okay,
speaks volumes to
this is the closing statement. This is the closing statement.
Who's BPF?
That's Andrew. This speaks volumes to the strength of Andrew and I on a team together, because we got on Alex's home court with his partners, with his worldview, with his weapons of choice for the debate, for the fight. We got his own guys to turn on him. That speaks volumes to how well we delivered the argument, and it was an internal.
I think that speaks volumes about Austin,
and that's why when it comes down to it. Hey, can we stop interrupting the closing statement, please?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. So it speaks volumes to how well we actually delivered the argument, and the fact that it was an internal critique makes it even better. And I guess to parrot what Austin was saying. That what Alex is not grasping is that we aren't just going to walk in and thump a Bible in your face, start speaking Chinese, start speaking Hebrew to you, because you're just not going to get it. So what we did was we adopted your definitions, your metrics, your standards for what is good, what is bad, and we delivered an argument in your language and showed you why it doesn't work. And albeit when we fall back to our own worldview, we have different foundations, but can still lead to the same conclusion. So that's kind of how and why this debate went the way that it did. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I do have a good amount of respect for Austin and Kevin's worldviews, where it overlaps with our deontological ethics, with our Christian
minds. Then,
so no, and Alex, no, I've saved the best for last, bro. I was gonna say no, you're obviously we disagree wholeheartedly on this topic, but like I complimented you in the last debate, you were good faith. You don't play games. I do think you're being genuine and authentic when you debate, and so I do appreciate that. You don't frustrate me in the same way that the SJW blue-haired leftists do. So I obviously, like I said, we disagree, but I do have respect for you in that regard, and the fact that you're willing to debate. BPF and I are serious opponents. So I appreciate you coming on, or letting us on rather. So yeah,
I want to thank you for that closing statement. And with that, right after this, because I
have one sentence I forgot, and it was really, really good.
Go for it, Austin.
Okay, yeah. So in terms of the pragmatic side, I think that could be the next debate in terms of, and not just doing morals, but yeah, I'd say that it's a losing strategy. I think from their point of view, what they're preaching is, I think it's a losing strategy to be an inexperienced virgin at 35, looking to compete with other men for a Christian wife in a society that becomes every year less religious, less monogamous, and you're competing against factors such as birth control, TikTok and Instagram that are just influencing women the opposite way. And I think it's a very tough sell to tell guys to do that in the face of a very difficult family and divorce system. But yeah, that's my
So do we, and we're happy to have that debate.